The US government under President Donald Trump has made a deal to send $6 million to El Salvador. This money will be used to keep around 300 Venezuelan migrants in the El Salvador's prison. Many of these migrants are being called members of the Tren de Aragua gang, a violent criminal group from Venezuela. This agreement is one of the first time El Salvador has agreed to take in deported migrants from the US. But the question is, what's the bigger picture here? First of all, let's talk about the gang. Tren de Aragua is one of the most dangerous gangs in South America. It started inside Venezuelan prison, but has since spread across multiple countries including Colombia, Peru, and even the US. The gang is involved in drug smuggling, human smuggling, and violent crimes. The Trump administration recently labeled this gang as foreign terrorist organization, which allows them to use a tougher law to arrest and deport anybody who's suspected of being part of it. The US wants to remove suspected gang members and other migrants who are in the country illegally. But instead of sending them directly back to Venezuela, where diplomatic relations with the US are complicated, they are sending them to El Salvador. President Nayib Bukele, known for his tough stance on crime, has agreed to take them in exchange for $6 million from the US. The money will be used to keep these individuals in El Salvador's high-security prison for at least 1 year. In fact, the El Salvador government will also be taking in 2 MS-13 gang members who had previously committed violent crimes in El Salvador before illegally entering the US. However, not everybody agrees with this particular plan. The American Civil Liberties Union and Democracy Forward has already sued the Trump administration. They argue that at least 5 Venezuelan men were being detained in Texas are at risk of being deported unfairly under the Alien Enemies Act, a law that allows US to remove people from countries considered a threat. A federal judge temporarily stopped the deportation for at least 2 weeks, but despite this, flights carrying deportees appear to be continued. The court's ruling stated that any deportation flight should be stopped mid-air and returned to the US if they had already taken off. But it's still unclear whether this actually happened or not. Some reports suggest that at least one flight landed in El Salvador on Saturday, raising concern about whether the Trump administration followed the legal orders or not. El Salvador has agreed to hold about 300 Venezuelans in prison for 1 year. After that, their future is uncertain. The US has not said anything what will happen to them next, whether they will stay in El Salvador, be sent to another country, or eventually return to Venezuela. In the meantime, El Salvador's prison system is already overcrowded and very controversial. Under Bukele's leadership, the country has arrested more than 84,000 people in recent years, often without trial or due process. Many human rights groups have criticized this particular approach, calling it a violation of basic rights. This deal is part of a much larger strategy by Trump to crack down on immigration. His administration has already increased deportations, tightened asylum rules, and made deals with other countries to handle migrants. By sending suspected gang members to El Salvador instead of dealing with them in the US only, Trump is showing that his administration is taking a tough stance on crime and illegal immigration. However, the legal challenges, human rights concerns, and questions about what will happen next to these migrants make this a very controversial and complex issue. Will other countries agree to similar deals in the future? How will this affect US-Venezuela relationship? Well, these are the questions that remain unanswered for now.